Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. I hope you are well and all having a very good week. It is Wednesday. I had to think about that for a second. It is Wednesday. And yes, this is video coming a little bit later than normal because I've been busy this morning playing a match at the Emirates. In fact, a few matches at the Emirates, and I was dreadful. Last year was great, scored a hat-trick, walked off, feeling very good about myself. Today, not quite so good, pretty awful, and have completely blown my knee out and limped all the way home. But other than that, I did score a last-minute equaliser in one of the games, so I at least salvaged some sort of pride from that. But other than that, it was a pretty forgettable showing from myself, but very good fun nonetheless. And there was some very good, a few good teams. It was sort of 7-a-side media tournament. The Sky Sports team were ridiculously good. Well, they didn't win in the independent one, actually, led by Miguel Delaney. They got their hands on the media trophy at the end of it. Safe to say we did not, but it was a very good, fun day. Anyway, and I'm assured that Tom Canton has got a video of my goal, so I'm eagerly awaiting that, and I will share it with you when it does come through. But yeah, that's why this video is a little bit later today. But let's get started. So there's a few things to talk about. I want to talk about Emile Smith Rowe. I want to talk about obviously William Saliba and his contract, and end a little bit on Marco Asensio, who. In fact, I'll wait. We'll talk about that at the end of the video when we get to Asensio. But we'll start with Smith Rowe because good news, certainly from my point of view, because I know you guys all know that I'm a very big Emile Smith Rowe fan, and I do not want him to go, and I think he should be being used far more than he is. But David Ornstein and Art de Roche I should pronounce Art's name right, at The Athletic, writing a story yesterday saying that the two of them sort of. Arsenal and Smith Rowe, it's sort of come, they're not selling him basically. He's not going anywhere this summer, which is a good thing because I have to admit, and that was purely based, mine's purely based on opinion and reading the situation. You sort of looked at it the way it's sort of he's been unfolding, the situation's been unfolding this season, and you just thought, oh God, he's going to end up going this summer, isn't he? Because he's not playing, and they're thinking of moving him on, but. Apparently he's staying, which is good. Hopefully he gets minutes next season because there's no point in him staying if you're not going to use him. If you're going to use him like you did this season, after he got back from the injury. I think he only played 195 minutes of football this season, albeit he missed a big chunk of that with that injury. But he did come back in January from that groin problem, and I'm absolutely sure that he was fit after that and pain-free and ready to go, but he just wasn't being used. And hopefully that's going to change this summer. He's got the England under-21s to go and play for, and then come back, have a really good pre-season and go. And I just think it makes so much sense. And I've said it before, I'm probably repeating myself, but I just don't understand why Smith Rowe would go when you've got him. You've got 3 years left on his contract. He's homegrown. He's loved by the fans. He's shown he can do it at this level and make a big, big impact. You've just got to use him. You've got to utilise him more. His talents, whether that be out wide or in the middle. Granit Xhaka's obviously probably leaving pretty soon. His role is going to be up for grabs. We know Arsenal are going to invest heavily in the midfield this season, but still, when you've got Smith Rowe, you've got a player as talented as Smith Rowe, you've got to use him. And I really hope that happens next season. We start to see him getting more and more minutes, because I understand that, Mikel had his favourites in the team. He had his starting 11, and I can get that. But there was definitely an opportunity to use Smith Rowe more, and it's difficult if he's low on confidence, whatever. That's why he's not being used. It's difficult for him to find confidence as he's not getting minutes, and there were opportunities there to give him minutes. There's loads of games I can think of where he could have featured more, not maybe from the start, but certainly come on. He certainly could have played more in the 2 games against Sporting Lisbon, away at Fulham when Arsenal were 3-0 up and he just sits on the bench, doesn't come on in the second half. The Leeds game at home when Arsenal were 3-0 up and Mikel turns to Bukayo Saka, who'd been ill and had missed training the day before, yet he brings Saka on at 3-0 up, and when Smith Rowe was sitting there, there was plenty of opportunities to get him minutes and to try and get a little bit more confidence in him and some game time in him. And so I just hope that next season, if he does stick around, and they are absolutely insistent on keeping him, that we don't end up getting into this sort of Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation where, not so long ago he was a massively wanted man. Wolves were bidding £20 million for Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Arsenal said no, rejected, and then 6 months later he's sent out on loan because he wasn't getting any minutes. So, brilliant news that he's keeping Smith Rowe. I'm so happy that it appears to be the case, but I really want to see him just integrated more, because he's such a talented player and so many clubs would want him, and there's no point going out and spending 50-60 million pounds, which you'd have to do if you sold Smith Rowe. You'd have to go in and get someone similar. What's the point of doing that when you've got a player who we all know can do it in the Premier League? He's proven he can do it in the Premier League. He's been such a huge part of this sort of shift in mood and vibrancy around the club, because when it was him and Saka when they first burst onto the scene that helped turn things around at the very start of the whole sort of Mikel Arteta stay. So yeah, and he's been given a number 10 shirt. You don't want it to sort of fizzle out his time at the club. So I'm delighted it looks like he's going to stay. But let me know what you guys think on that, and how you see Smith Rowe potentially sort of playing out over the next season or so, where he should play, how Mikel should use him, when he should use him. Let me know, as always, in the comments below. Just on... going back to Smith Rowe, actually, I wanted to say this before. I wanted to go over these comments from Mikel, and when he sat at the press conference and he said this, the first thought that popped into my head was Smith Rowe. When he was talking about wanting to improve the players that he already had in the squad, and how that was a big challenge for him going into next season. It wasn't just about signing new players, but also improving the players that he hadn't got enough out of this season. He said, first of all, be critical of ourselves, first with myself. My job is to get the best out of the 24 players that we have available, and I haven't been able to do that. There are still players who have great potential, and we haven't been able to do that. There are different reasons, whether it's injuries, game time, whether I haven't had the opportunity, or I haven't been able to play them enough. We have to look for those margins, because we have those margins and our job is to make them better. And Smith Rowe, as soon as he said that, I was sitting in the press conference when he said it, I just thought, you're basically talking about Emile Smith Rowe here, because you've got a player that talented, who's done it before, who's shown he can score goals at Premier League level, can create goals, can cause teams all sorts of problems with the way he runs with the ball, and you just haven't got enough out of him. For some reason, you haven't been able to get enough out of him, whether that be partly Smith Rowe's fault, whatever, but it's all about managers getting the most out of their players. And I think that's a big challenge from Mikel next season when it comes to Smith Rowe. And there's other players as well. Fabio Vieira's one I think of there. But the difference is Fabio Vieira, I thought, got plenty of opportunities, especially over the second half of the season when potentially he didn't really deserve them. And he got those opportunities ahead of Smith Rowe, and he kept getting them. And that's when I thought there were times when you could have turned to Smith Rowe, but there's plenty of players there I think Arsenal can get more out of in this squad, and those two I think are absolutely right up there, because Fabio Vieira, again, I think is an immensely talented player. We've seen that he looks really comfortable on the ball when he first came in, but as the season went on, as his confidence dropped, he just couldn't turn things around, and by the end he was looking like a little bit of a scared little boy out there at times in games. And that can't happen when you spend that amount of money on a player. You've got to be able, Mikel and the coaching staff behind the scenes have got to build him up and get more out of him next season, because Arsenal spent a lot of money on him, and you've got to get as much out of that investment as you possibly can. I think there's certainly a player there in Fabio Vieira, and it's just about Mikel being able to utilise the minutes, utilise the squad, and get as most out of all of them as he possibly can. William Saliba's contract is again being discussed at the moment in terms of the media. I saw Mark Owen at The Sun writing a story about the fact PSG is circling and monitoring the situation, which is always going to happen, because I've said it, this is the one that potentially, the longer it goes on, certainly the longer it goes on this summer, the more we're going to start hearing about it, because you just, from an Arsenal point of view, and again, this is me kind of speaking opinion-wise, I don't see how you can let this go until the end of the transfer window. You cannot lose Saliba on a free transfer. You can't take the risk. So unless you are absolutely certain he is going to sign a deal by the end of the transfer window, I think you've got to sell. And I hate selling, even saying that, but you surely cannot lose William Saliba on a free transfer at the end of the season. There's a big decision going to have to be made at some point if, and it's a big if, he doesn't sign his deal. Hopefully in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is, before they come back, before they head off to America, we've got some really good news. It comes through, the talks have gone well, and he has signed his new deal. But as of yet, it hasn't happened. Everyone else has. He's the last remaining one that Arsenal have got to get sorted. It was always going to be the toughest one to get sorted. Martinelli, Saka, you always felt that was going to happen. We started to get noise that it was going to happen. That's not been the case with Saliba yet, though. And we wait to see how it plays out, but fingers crossed he can sign, because what a player he is. He's settled in so well this season. Him and Gabriel form that formidable centre-back partnership. Gabriel's been brilliant as well. I think really underrated by a lot of people this season, but there's no doubt once Saliba wasn't in the team, Gabriel looked a little bit more nervy, and that is no surprise really, is it? But to split those two up this summer would be awful. You want to build your team around that centre-back partnership, and so fingers crossed Arsenal can get it done. If they do, it's been a brilliant piece of work by Edu and the sort of contracts team to get all those players tied down. They've done so well to get everyone else tied down. This is the big one now. Get it done. Do not let the uncertainty drag throughout the summer, because if it continues to tick away, the time continues to tick away, there's going to be a big decision that needs to be made when it comes to Saliba and his potential future. Okay, this is what I wanted to talk about. Marco Asensio at Real Madrid. Free transfer this summer, potentially, if he doesn't sign a new contract with Madrid. There's still talks ongoing, by all accounts, with Madrid and Asensio, but the noises coming out of Spain, the suggestions coming out of Spain is that he could be on his way. Aston Villa very heavily linked with Asensio, Juventus, Milan as well. Arsenal's name being mentioned from time to time. I don't have any information on Asensio, so this is purely I just wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get your views, see what you guys had to say in the comments about this one, because we know that Arsenal want to sign a right-sided player as cover, competition, whatever you want to call it, for Bukayo Saka. Now, Asensio is certainly not a touchline hugging winger by any means, but he can play on the right, he can play on the centre, he can play across the front line. And I just, I keep seeing his name linked with Arsenal. It's stretched back a good couple of transfer windows now. Every window, Arsenal seem to be linked with Asensio. 27 years now, I think I saw. I think he's 12 goals this season, 8 assists. It's decent numbers. 20 direct goal involvements for Asensio. Not always a starter for Madrid either. I just wonder if that would be a decent deal on a free, depending on wages, obviously. But again, this is not me saying that Arsenal are in for Asensio, so please don't take it as that. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, because Arsenal are going to have to spend an awful lot of money this summer. We know that midfield's going to be huge, the investment's going to be huge. If Arsenal are going to get their priority targets, they're going to have to spend big, no doubt about it. Fullback stroke centre-back cover is absolutely essential this window as well. That's an area Arsenal are really going to be targeting to sign. Sacha Boey, there's been sort of tentative talks with Galatasaray about Sacha Boey. Galatasaray have been talking to a lot of clubs about him. Whether Arsenal sort of decide to pursue that and make a bid for him, for the young Frenchman, we'll have to wait and see on that. But there certainly has been conversations taking place between the two clubs and other clubs. So it's not just Arsenal. Galatasaray are sort of trying to assess the market to see who might be interested and how much they're going to pay. Frisneda as well. Obviously, Valladolid, Arsenal have been very interested in, certainly in January. I don't think they've revisited that yet. It might happen. It didn't in January. They decided, and the player decided, it would be best to stay in Spain. That could well change. Dortmund, I think, will probably still be interested. They were also interested in January. And that is a big area that Arsenal want to improve on, sort of right back cover, but potentially someone who can play centre back as well. There's going to be big money needed. And so when you look at that right-sided player, how much money can you really afford to spend on that position? I just look at Asensio and I think, could he do it in the Premier League? Would he? He's a quality player. We know he's a quality player. He's certainly it's not been all plain sailing for him since he came through at Real Madrid. He came through with such pace when he first arrived on the scene. Looked a hell of a player, scored some brilliant goals, was keeping Gareth Bale out of the team at the time. But then he struggled a little bit to maintain those heights. But he's had a decent season this season, no doubt. In the limited knowledge I have of La Liga, I haven't sat there and watched every Real Madrid game, but I have seen highlights, I've seen goals, and he's always involved. He's scored plenty, so he's coming off the back of a good season. And I just wonder if that would be a decent move for Arsenal, whether he could adapt to the Premier League and be a decent player. So you guys will be, I'm sure, plenty of you will be far more expert than me when it comes to Asensio, and whether he could do it in the Premier League and whether it would be a good signing. So I just wanted to put that out there, see what you guys had to say on that. Obviously, we're in transfer season now. It's always good to have a little bit of a debate over who could potentially be a good signing. So yeah, I'd love to get your views on that. Let me know in the comments below. All right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for watching again, a little bit later than usual. Because of my game this morning at the Emirates, but I'll be back hopefully tomorrow at the usual time, and we'll go through some more Arsenal discussion, news, views and opinions. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.